Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey there, dance studio owners. Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. It's Clint here. I'm so thrilled that you're joining us for today's episode. Now, in today's episode, I'm really excited to be chatting with the one and only Kevin Kruse. Now, Kevin is a world-renowned leadership and productivity expert who is passionate about tapping into wholehearted leadership for employee engagement. He's the founder and CEO of LeadX, an online learning platform that provides free leadership development for millions of people around the world, and where he shares his expertise on how growth, recognition, and trust are the key drivers that turn average groups into high-performing teams. Kevin, so pumped to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Clint, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
So one of the things that our studio owners struggle with is the concept of leadership. I'm always saying to them, you've got to become the CEO of your studio. And when they hear that word, they get really scared that they're like the CEO. Why are business owners, small business owners, and in particular our studio owners, afraid of the word leadership?
Well, I think that's a great place to start, Clint. And there was a time when I was uncomfortable with that word and the CEO word because, I don't come at this from, I'm not a consultant, I'm not an academic professional. I've just had small businesses, my whole life for the last 30, adult years. And as I say, when I was young and dumb, I was making the classic mistake of working in my business rather than on my business. Mm-hmm. And my first two companies failed. They went under. And it was only after I got some mentors and, matured a little bit that I realized that, even though it was true, I really could do things better than a lot of the people that work for me. I'm sure, your business owners, the dance studio owners out there, they might feel like, well, I'm the best instructor we have, or I'm the best salesperson we have, or only I can work on that marketing document. And that's probably true. And yet you can't do everything yourself. If you're going to grow, if you're going to scale, if you're going to be profitable, you got to be okay with 90% as good as you, maybe 80% as good as you. And when I realized that things didn't have to be perfect, and these days, that leadership word to me, it's not a big scary word. It just means influence. So I always say, Clint, we're all leaders whether we want to be or not, because we influence when we step forward and take action and speak up. But we're also influencing maybe in a negative direction when we're a bystander, when we choose to let things go, when we hold our tongue. And so to me, leadership is about, it's influencing the employees, it's influencing the customers, it's influencing our family members. I think we're leading one way or another, whether we like to or not.
Yeah, great way to start. I want to ask, which you touched on a little bit, is a lot of our studio owners are like, well, I have to be in the classroom because the parents want me, and I have to be on the front desk because I need to talk to the parents, and I have to do the marketing. We get kind of stuck as a studio owner, especially in the early years, because it is us all the time. We're trying to make money to pay for our rent and to pay maybe for a couple of teachers. But what do we need to think about when we're bringing on some of our initial staff members to take over the things that we were doing beforehand?
Right. Well, I think that is the critical point because, again, when you're starting out, there's not enough time, certainly not enough money. And so we do have to wear multiple hats. But the goal, if you want to build, a successful, sustainable business, you need to create that structure so that you are expendable. In fact, Clint, I was looking at some dance studio websites just this morning in advance of our interview, and a lot of them I noticed as part of their selling proposition would say something like, Jenny is always there. Jenny is there late 5 days a week. And Jenny apparently was selling this as an advantage, as a feature. Well, that might get you through your first year, but it's really dangerous to make you the company. And it's easy to brand yourself. It's okay to name your studio after yourself, to be the brand. but you want to do like what the restaurants do. Everybody knows there's a chef. The chef isn't cooking every single meal. There's sous chefs who, the chef makes the recipes, maybe gets the great ingredients, trains the sous chefs, tastes the dishes. Well, dance studio can be the same way. Any small business, I as the small business owner, it's my vision, it's my systems, it's my proprietary teaching approaches. And yet I need to be able to hire those first employees and make sure that they can represent that system, that Clint brand, that Kevin brand, even when I'm not there.
So perfect. Such a good point, because so often studio owners will, it's all kind of tied to them at the end of the day. And I think that that's the struggle that they face, is how they get out of that. But you've added some nice clarity there. Let's say we build up our team, we start building our team, and we're like that dog walker where the 12 dogs are like walking in 100 different directions. How do we, what is kind of culture? How do we build it? And how do we get all of our employees or teachers or office admin on the same page?
Yeah, to me, I mean, this is not an official definition, but to me, the culture of a place is what goes on when you're not there. The culture helps people to determine what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And in any small business, any startup, it does come from the owner, the founder. It doesn't have to be a big mission statement or a vision statement or values that nobody remembers. Mm-hmm. It's from these daily interactions, the trainings, the meetings. It comes from making sure you're reinforcing good behaviors. Hey, Clint, I heard the way you handled that question from that mom this morning. Great job. That's exactly the way you want to handle that. Or, hey, Clint, I heard that you didn't want to give a refund, or you got a little upset with that one customer. That's not the way we do it here. So it's really just giving the guidance about behaviors day in and day out. And over time, people learn, and that stuff sticks.
What if we've got a team member that maybe isn't engaging as much as we would like them to, or maybe is bringing a negative energy to the space? How do we have tough conversations or confronting conversations, with team members if they're not performing at the level we need them to?
Yeah, I'm glad you used that word tough, because, and this has been one of my biggest weaknesses. I was raised in a very non-confrontational household, and there was no arguing or screaming. So even to this day, I'm 50 years old now, and I still don't like, calling people out on stuff. But when I force myself to do it, and as a leader, as a business owner, we do have to do these things. The best thing to think of with feedback, whether it's positive or, constructive, negative, think about that TSA motto here in the States. If you see something, say something. So this is something where you want to give that feedback as quickly as possible. And you never make it about the person, you make it about their behavior. So instead of me saying, hey, Clint, I want to talk to you because I think you got a really bad attitude around here. That's very general, and, feels like I'm saying you are flawed. You've got a bad attitude.
Yes.
More effective is if I say, hey, Clint, this morning in the staff meeting, I noticed you were rolling your eyes when I was talking about, coming in this Sunday morning. And you probably didn't intend it to come off this way, but I felt disrespected, and I'm afraid that it's undermining my authority, as the manager here, as the leader here. So what you're doing is you're just specifying the behavior, again, hopefully as close to when it happened as possible, and explaining why that's negative. What's the outcome from that? So whether it's, hey, I noticed you got in at 5:15 today. And as you know, I was hoping you'd be in by 5. And that meant that I had to stay and cover for you. And now I'm late going to my other appointment. Or it meant that those 2 walk-ins were sitting in the lobby for 20 minutes, which isn't the best way to convince them that we're a high service place. So you just mention the behavior, explain the impact. And then, of course, ideally, you enlist their help in agreeing that stuff's not going to happen again, or a better way to handle those kinds of things.
That's perfect. And if we've got a team member that then we've had that conversation, and I'm asking this because it comes up continually, sure. Is that we've had the conversations with them and things don't seem to improve.
Right.
We've got that team member. We feel like we're hitting our head against the wall a little bit. What are then our next steps? Like how long do you give someone before you basically say, I don't think we're right for each other?
Well, again, when I was young and dumb, I would give them far too long. I mean, I would wait months and months, thinking I was being a nice guy about it. I was trying to be an understanding boss, or even trying to be friends with people. And unfortunately, in my experience, as a small business owner, none of those situations turn around. And I've gotten to really the other extreme, where if I think through every team member and say, okay, if I could turn the clock back and I had to make the choice all over again, would I hire Katrina again? Yes or no? Would I hire Tara again? Yes or no? And if there's any person on my team that I come to and I'm like, I don't know if I would hire them again. Boom, they got to go. And you can do it compassionately. You can give them time to find a new job. You can give them severance, whatever it is. But that's your indicator. And Clint, I know it's hard because, again, it's not easy to find great people, right? So if I'm going to let someone go, well, now who's gonna do the dance class next week? Or now I'm in the studio again, 7 days a week when I was just dialing it down to 5. So I understand that that's hard. But again, emotions are contagious. It's like catching a cold. Negativity will spread to other team members. People who are grumpy at work as employees, it means that that's spreading to customers. Customer service gets hurt. And this is your company. This is your brand. So I think the sooner, you have a couple of those conversations, but if at some point after a few weeks or a couple of months, you ask yourself, geez, if I could have hired this person, if I'd go back and hire them, would I hire them again? If you're got any hint that answer is no, then I think you need to move on.
Yeah, such great advice, Kevin. Thanks for sharing that insight. Let's switch to a more positive, uplifting question, and that's about recognition of our amazing employees, people that are going above and beyond. They're doing a fantastic job. What ways, because I think the trickiest thing in today's world is that everyone likes recognition in different ways. Some people love the gift. Some people just like the pat on the back and the whisper, you're doing an amazing job. How do we recognize really exceptional performance with our team?
Clint, I think you answered your own question. You're right. Recognition is generally viewed as one of the top 3 drivers of morale, motivation, engagement. And the great news is it doesn't take a lot of time or money. And for most people, a sincere verbal thank you, pat on the back, a high five, that goes a long way. But, there's that author Chapman who has the 5 love languages. Yeah, Gary Chapman, right? And I think there's a lot of truth in that. We as individuals, we express love and attention in different ways, and we like to receive it in different ways. So while I think a universal principle is we want to recognize great effort as often as possible, we need to individualize how we do that. And I've seen some leaders actually ask people. To me, that's a little awkward, but I sort of try to pick up on clues. Does someone want a $10 Starbucks card, or do they want a verbal shout out in the team meeting? I mean, handwritten thank you notes, I think are golden no matter who you are. You can always do other things in addition. But I think you're right. You just really need to find out, how is Clint embarrassed by the public recognition, but Kevin kind of lights up when you gave him a shout out in the team meeting? You just kind of need to try some things and see how people are responding.
Yeah, awesome. You just kind of talked about team meetings. I'd love to get your tips and advice on running an efficient meeting, because sometimes our studio owners will say, yeah, we had a 2-hour team meeting. And I was like, what did you talk about for 2 hours? What's a good kind of structure for a meeting that is beneficial but doesn't waste time?
Right. Yeah. I'm not a big meeting guy. I mean, I think, I'm all about the productivity, action, getting things done. And I think it's primarily because most team meetings they start late, they run long, sometimes the wrong people are there. They're not actively managed, which means the wrong people tend to dominate the conversation. Either the extroverts are talking all the time and the introverts who have just as many good ideas but don't bring them out. There's a lot of flaws with traditional meetings. So if you have to have the team meeting, I think those fundamentals of start on time, end early, and actively facilitate them. Make sure everybody knows what the agenda is going to be, what the topics are. Keep people on topic. If someone raises some interesting things, but it's going to derail the rest of that meeting, jot it down, on a piece of paper or on a flip chart and say, all right, we're going to put it in this little parking lot here to come back to in the next meeting. I might notice, I'm as the facilitator, I want to kind of balance the interaction. So I might say, hey, Clint, you've been kind of quiet today. What do you think about this new idea for that special promotion? So I would purposely kind of call out people who are a little more quiet. But I think in terms of structure, what I found, again, in my own business is that oddly, when I added 2 meetings, a bunch of other meetings disappeared. And the one style meeting I had was the weekly one-on-one. So with each person that reported to me, I'd grab them for 5, 10, 15 minutes, usually on a Monday. I would be starting the week. And I would just be like, hey, how's it going? Like, how'd it go last week? What's coming up? Who are you meeting with? What's your schedule looking like this week? And how can I help? How can we help? Is there anything you're stuck with? And it's a great way to build rapport with your team members, to show them that you care. And it's really their meeting, less than your meeting, in case they have issues to bring up to you that they're concerned about. And then I do like doing a weekly team huddle, just so that everybody knows what's going on. If you only have a 3-person business, then, maybe everybody kind of already knows, but not everybody's, knows that you had a trouble customer, or that someone bailed out, or that there's a special promotion coming up, whatever it might be. So just doing a short weekly team, meeting, I think, will help to keep everybody on the same page.
I love it. It's really, really good. And I think that's going to get people thinking a little bit differently about how they're spending their time with their team meetings. So thanks for sharing that. I want to wrap up, Kevin, and ask you about productivity, because this is a question we get all the time from our studio owners. I'm sure you get it a lot as well, around people feeling like they're continually spinning their wheels. I'd love for you to share us some kind of tactical ways that we can get more out of our day.
Yeah, I ended up, for one of my books, I interviewed over 300 self-made millionaires, billionaires, Olympic athletes, straight-A students, and I asked them that open-ended question, like, what's your number one piece of advice to be productive and to get the most out of your day? Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of surprises in there. And I think the big one that is it can change your life. I get emails every day from people saying I've changed their life, but it's going to sound strange. And here it is, Clint. It's throw away your to-do list and put everything on your calendar. So most of the time management systems out there say, all right, your calendar is for meetings and phone calls, like appointments. And then your to-do list, that's all your tasks. And you want to look at it once a day, once a week, and prioritize it. Here's my A items and my B items. And then within the A group, there's A1, A2. The problem with it is, research shows that almost half of the things we put on our to-do list, we never do at all. They just never get done. We got a 50% failure rate with to-do lists. Mm-hmm. But also, when you're living life from a to-do list, you're stressed out because there's always going to be more to do. I could work a 14-hour day, go home, be exhausted, and then I've got insomnia because my brain's churning on all the things on that list. What I want everybody to do is, and it takes a while to get into this habit, is take all that stuff off your to-do list, and each item you're going to say, all right, I'm picking a day, a time, and a duration, and I'm scheduling it. It's like an appointment with myself, and then ideally, once you get into that habit, then the power of, time blocking is you make these recurring appointments. Hey, I know I should be, following up on all these postcards that we got from the community fair now a month ago. I've let them sit for 4 weeks. Well, I am going to schedule the first hour or the first 30 minutes of every day of doing follow-up emails, follow-up phone calls, follow-up text messages. Every day, before I turn on my email, before I check voicemail, I'm going to stick my phone on airplane mode and put it in my desk. And I'm going to do that because I know that prospecting is key. Or maybe it's, recruiting new instructors. Whatever your most important task is, you want to make that a recurring appointment as early in your day as possible.
That's gold. Put it on the calendar and get rid of that to-do list. Awesome, Kevin. Hey, look, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and time with our studio owners today. Where can we go to get more information about your books and what you're up to?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Clint. Well, I've got a podcast called The Lead X Show, LEADX. And so for anyone who's into podcast, it's a very short daily show where we cover a productivity tip of the day, a leadership tip of the day, usually in less than 20 minutes. So I'd say start there. You could also go onto our website, leadx.org, O-R-G, LEADX.org.
Awesome. Great. And it's a great podcast. Since we found out about Kevin a couple of months ago, Mel and I both from my team have both been listening to it. So please, guys, make sure you check that out. Thanks, Kevin, again for your time. So great to chat with you.
Thanks, Clint.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.